Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for Game 1 of the NLCS between the Chicago Cubs and the New York Mets. We're going to go over every at-bat and the stats and give our breakdown and analysis. And on the mound for New York, Matt Harvey. And on the mound for Chicago, Jon Lester. So he had quite the pitching duel early on in this game. And in the top of the first, Harvey set the side down in order as he struck out the two first batters he faced, Fowler and then Schwarber, and then he got Bryant to ground out. So that did it for the top of the first. So now in the bottom of the first, Lester would get Granderson to ground out. Wright then flew out. Then Daniel Murphy came into the box and he goes deep to right, 386 feet. His fourth home run in this postseason. And it was 1-0 New York over Chicago. Yoenis Cespedes then struck out, and Lester was out of the inning, but not after lighting up the solo shot by Murphy that made it 1-0 New York. So now in the top of the second, Harvey would set down the side in order for the second straight inning, retiring the first six batters he faced in this game as he got Rizzo to pop out, Castro grounded out, and he struck out Solar. So now in the bottom of the second, d'Arnaud would hit a single, and now Kadire would end up grounding into a double play, and Flores grounded out. So that did it for the second inning. Now in the top of the third, Matt Harvey would continue his excellence in this game as he set down the side in order for the third straight inning, retiring the first 9 batters that he faced as Baez grounded out, and then he struck out Ross and Lester. So he's perfect through 3 at this point. Now in the bottom of the third, Lester would set down the side in order, getting Lagares to ground out, Harvey fouled out, and Granderson lined out. So that did it for the third inning. Now in the top of the fourth, Harvey would continue to be perfect as he set down the side in order for the fourth straight inning, retiring the first 12 batters that he faced as he got Fowler to ground out, Schwarber lined out, and he struck out Bryant. So that did it for the top half of the fourth. Now in the bottom of the fourth, David Wright would draw a walk, a leadoff walk. He then stole second, but then Murphy struck out, Cespedes struck out, and d'Arnaud flew out. So Lester, after letting up the leadoff walk, would get the next 3 guys out, leaving Wright stranded at second, which he had stolen. So now that would do it for the fourth. Now to the top of the fifth. And the perfectness would end there. He had 4 perfect innings at this point, but he hit Rizzo with a pitch. Harvey, that is. And so now Rizzo was on first base with no outs. And Starlin Castro hit a double, and Rizzo scored. And this game was tied up at 1. So Harvey had been perfect through 4. And now, after the hitting Rizzo with the pitch, Castro drove him in. No outs for Solar. He would ground out. Now Baez hit a single, and on that single, Castro tried to stretch it and get home, but he tested Yoenis Cespedes, and that's somebody you do not want to test because he's got a cannon for an arm. He made an incredible throw, and d'Arnaud applied the tag, and Castro was thrown out at home. So Baez would end up stealing second, and now he would end up reaching on third by a throwing error by d'Arnaud, and then Ross was intentionally walked, and Lester struck out, and that would do it for the top of the fifth, but not after the Cubs had tied this game up at 1 with the RBI double by Castro. So now in the bottom of the fifth, Lester would strike out Kadire, Flores would hit a single, and then Lagares would hit a single, so now you had 2 on, 1 out for Harvey. Harvey hit into a fielder's choice. The lead runner was out at third, Flores. Now you had 2 men still on with 2 outs for Curtis Granderson. And Granderson comes up clutch with a single, driving in Lagares, and now it was 2-1 as the Mets took the lead back. David Wright would strike out, and that would do it for the 5th inning. But not after the Mets had put a run on the scoreboard to go up by 1, 2-1, heading into the 6th. So in the 6th inning, Matt Harvey would set down the side in order for the 5th time in this game, as he had done in the first 4 innings. He does it here again in the 6th, as he got Fowler to line out, Schwarber grounded out, and Bryant lined out. So now in the bottom of the 6th, Lester would get Murphy to pop out. Cespedes flew out, and d'Arnaud went deep as he took Lester deep to center, 436 feet, and it was now a 2-run lead for New York, 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th. Kadire then hit a single, Flores flew out, and that did it for the 6th inning, but not after the Mets had stretched their run to 2 with that solo shot by d'Arnaud. I always mess up his name. So anyway, on to the top of the 7th, Harvey would end up walking Rizzo. He had hit him with a pitch earlier, and now he ended up walking him here in this plate appearance. And Castro would line out. Solar would reach on an infield single. Rizzo at second with 1 out for Baez. He struck out as Harvey came up huge with a clutch strikeout here in the top of the 7th. LaStella then pinch hit for Ross, and Harvey struck him out as well. His back-to-back strikeouts for Harvey as he was going strong through 7, making a deep pitching appearance here as the starter in Game 1 of the NLCS. So 3-1 going to the bottom of the 7th. Lester still on the mound for Chicago. Castro would come in at short, and LaStella, he would move over to short as LaStella came in at second, and Martero would be behind the plate. So Lagares at the plate, he would hit a single. Harvey then sacrificed him over to second with a bunt. Now Lagares would steal third, and Curtis Granderson comes up clutch once again for the Mets, here with a sac fly. Lagares tagged up, and he scored, and it was now 4-1 as the Mets extended their lead to 3 here in the bottom of the 7th. So that would do it for Lester's. He was done for the night. Grimm would come in to relieve him, and he would get right to ground out, and that would bring a close to the 7th inning, but not after Granderson had added an insurance run to make it 4-1 heading into the 8th. So now Matt Harvey still on the mound for New York going into the 8th inning. Coghlan would end up pinch hitting for Grimm, so Grimm faced the one batter and he'd be done as he was pinch hit for. Coghlan flew out, and now Fowler would fly out, and that brought up Kyle Schwarber, and Schwarber hit a moonshot 461 feet to right center as he went deep, and it was now a 2-run game, 4-2, as the Cubs cut the lead of New York to just 2 runs, and that would do it for Harvey. After letting up that home run, his night would be done. He pitched an incredible game. He was perfect through the first 4 innings, and he goes 7 2/3, allowing just 2 runs. So now Bryant would be the first batter that Familia would face, as Familia came in to record the final 4 outs of this game. And through this series at this point, Familia had not allowed any hits or any earned runs. He did walk Bryant, but then he got Rizzo to ground out, and that would do it for the top of the 8th. But not after Schwarber hit that solo shot to make it a 2-run game heading to the bottom of the 8th. Clayton Richard is on the mound now for the Cubs in relief of Grimm, who had been pitch hit for to lead off the inning in the top half of the inning. And now Murphy would ground out, as that was the first batter he would face. And now Trevor Cahill would come in to relieve Richard, and Yoenis Cespedes in the batter's box, he grounded out, and that would be the second out of the inning. Now d'Arnaud would strike out as they went down in order, and that would do it for the bottom of the 8th. But now to the top of the 9th, Mets up by 2. Familia on the mound. As I said, no hits, no earned runs in the postseason thus far for Familia, and he was 3 outs away from securing Game 1 of the NLCS for New York as they had a 2-run lead, save situation. He'd already gotten 1 out in the previous inning, but either way it would have been a save situation if he came in right here, but he already had recorded 1 out. And the first batter he'd face in the top of the 9th would be Starlin Castro. He got him the pop out, and now against Jorge Soler, he would strike out, a big strikeout for Familia. Now Montero at the plate, and he got on base. He hit a single, and that was the first hit allowed by Familia in the postseason here in 2015. So now LaStella in the box, 2 outs, representing the tying run, and he would ground out as Daniel Murphy made a nice play at second to get him out at first, and this game came to a close. Familia picks up the save. The win for Matt Harvey, as he was excellent in this game, and the Mets win 4-2 to take the first game of the NLCS. They're up 1-0 in the series, and a really quite the pitching performance by both of these starters to start out. But then eventually, in the 5th, 6th, 7th, the Mets kept getting runs, and Harvey only allowed 2, one in the 5th, one in the 8th. And he was, he struck out 9. He was phenomenal. Like I said, the first 12 batters he retired. He was perfect through the first 4. He ended up with 7 2/3 innings, 2 earned runs off of 4 hits, walking 2 batters. And that was Rizzo both times. He hit him once, and then he ended up walking him a second time on balls. But 9 strikeouts. He did allow that 1 home run, and that, of course, was the home run to Schwarber that he ended up leaving the game after that, after having already recorded 2 outs in that 8th inning, as he went extremely deep in the game and allowed the Mets to be able to rest their bullpen. And Familia comes in, records the final 4 outs. He did allow his first hit of the postseason, and he did walk 1 batter, but he had 1 strikeout. He did not allow any runs. He picks up the save, and he did a pretty good job for sure. Lester was looking good at points in the game, but the Mets just kept chipping away at him, and they eventually got 4 earned runs off of 8 hits in the 6 2/3 innings that Lester pitched. He had 5 strikeouts and had 1 walk. Of course, he did let up the 2 home runs, and that was the one to Murphy in the 1st, and then d'Arnaud in the 6th. Grimm and Richard both pitched just 1 batter and 1 out, and that was 1/3 of an inning. Didn't allow any hits or earned runs. Cahill 2/3 of an inning with 1 strikeout, no earned runs, no hits. And then, of course, for the Mets, the 2 home runs, as I just said. And really with the RBIs, Granderson coming up clutch. He had that sac fly. He also, he was 1 for 3 with the 2 RBIs. And of the top 8 batters, 1 through 8, everybody reached base except for Cespedes for the Mets. So 7 of their top 8 in the lineup reached base. Of course, Murphy with that home run starting things off in the 1st inning, setting the tempo. And then Harvey with his just dominance through the first 4 innings, just setting them down. The Cubs ended up with just 5 hits in the game, and then 3 walks, reaching base only 8 times, striking out 10 times in the game. 9 of those strikeouts for Matt Harvey. So Matt Harvey, just an amazing performance. This is the Matt Harvey we haven't seen in quite some time, looking like the old Matt Harvey back when he was a very dominant pitcher. And he was very dominant in this game, especially those 4 perfect innings to start off. So they did get on him in the 5th, and then he let up that solo shot but in the 8th. But other than that, he was just amazing in this game. The Cubs, they were struggling to really string together hits. They did in the 5th inning, but other than that, they really weren't stringing together their hits. They only had 5 hits, and no batter of the Cubs had more than 1 hit. Schwarber had that solo shot. He was 1 for 4. Castro 1 for 4. Soler 1 for 4. Baez 1 for 3. Montero was 1 for 1 in the pinch hit. But for the Cubs, Granderson, like I said, 1 for 3 with the 2 RBIs. Wright was 0 for 3, but he did walk once. He did reach base. Murphy, 1 for 4 with that solo shot. And then d'Arnaud. I always mess up his name for some reason. I don't know why I always do it. Something about that name. It gets me every time. I apologize. 2 for 4 in the game. He had an RBI. He also crossed the plate once. That was, of course, at the same time, that solo shot he hit. And then Kadire 1 for 3. And Lagares 2 for 3. And he scored both times. He got on base. So it was a pretty good game for the Mets. The Cubs, the Lester was doing pretty good, but just, he was, he left those couple of solo shots, and he just happened to be, the Mets also were getting at him in both ways. Like, they were playing a little small ball, and they also got a couple long balls, and, they chipped away at him, especially in those 5th, 6th, 7th innings, as he kept having to go through the lineup. The more times they saw him, then they started, getting at him. He said at that point, Granderson, when he came up and got that, single in the 5th, that was his 3rd at bat, and then he comes up and gets another RBI in his 4th at bat. So Granderson coming up clutch, and that's the thing Granderson does. And at the top of the lineup, when he's getting things done, then the Mets usually have success. He's that spark plug, and he's really kind of like got that spirit. You know what I mean? He is the heart and soul of that team, starting it all off, and they kind of follow after him. And that's how the lineup goes. He's the leadoff guy. And then you got the power from Murphy, and then of course Darno. You don't really expect him necessarily, but in the 5 spot, getting that home run. And the Mets, I mean, the way Harvey was pitching, not like they needed that much offense, but they got enough. And they get the win, 1-0 in the series. Of course, plenty more baseball to play, and it's going to be interesting to see here on out, but both these teams got some pretty good pitching staff, so we're going to see a lot more good pitching in this series, just like we saw tonight, especially from Matt Harvey and that amazing performance. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.